2015 baccalaureate success rate estimated at 51.36%, with Tizi Ouzou province ranked top as expected. Prime Minister Abdelmalek Saleh landed in Gadaia to investigate the situation and assess the damage left by the unfortunate clashes. And internationally, Greece submitted to its Eurozone creditors its final reform proposal in hopes of striking a final deal. Those were today's top stories. Thank you for joining us live on Dzair News. And as we previously mentioned in the headlines, the Minister of National Education, Nouria Ben Ghabrit, announced this Thursday, July 9th, a success rate of 51.36% in the baccalaureate exams of the year 2014-2015. The results were published on the official website of the National Office for Examinations and Competitions. Karim Faz Zakri has the full story.
The Minister of Education, Nouria Ben Ghabrit, announced this Thursday, July 9th, a success rate of 51.36% in the baccalaureate exam of the 2014-2015 school year. The results were published on the official website of the National Board of Examination and Competitions, ONEC. This year's result is somewhat better than last year, with the wilaya of Tizi Ouzou remaining on top with a rate of 65%. After the Minister Nouria Ben Ghabrit announced the official date of releasing the results on the 9th of July, the official website of the National Board of Examination and Competition, ONEC, witnessed a congestion due to demands of students to see the results at 10 a.m. on Thursday.
Aujourd'hui, le taux de réussite.
I can reveal today the rate of success, which reaches 51.36%.
A été bouclé hier soir et le taux.
The results will be also posted a day later at the level of education establishments.
Affiché au niveau des établissements.
The minister, who revealed the number of 19,000 new teacher recruits to support the national education sector, has constantly reminded that the cornerstone of education in the country is the teacher. The minister seized the opportunity to respond to her criticizers to confirm that the success of national education is the task of everyone, and she also announced that a national congress will be held later on the current month. The congress will gather key activists in the education sector, whose number exceeds 700 members from different educational cycles, to come up with some resolutions to enhance the sector. The Minister of Education, Nouria Ben Ghabrit, who revealed through her intervention on the third Algerian radio channel, Alger 3, also commented on the numerous rumors circulating around the educational sector on a daily basis, which led her to open a Facebook account to reconnect with the sector's workers on the one hand and to refute all the rumors on the other.
Still with national news, Prime Minister Abdelmalek Saleh arrived Thursday in the province of Gadaia at the head of a large ministerial delegation to inquire about the situation in the province, which has been experiencing in the last few days an unprecedented unrest which has killed more than 20 people and injured many others. Nadia Qasmi has the full story.
22 people died and several others were injured in clashes between Gadaia young rivals since the resumption of incidents in the region in early July. Since then, silence prevailed the whole area of Grara. People locked themselves in their homes for fear of violence eruption. Others preferred to move to other surrounding towns seeking security, but at the same time meeting up with other challenges, such as lack of security and available accommodations they are used to in Grara, according to its inhabitants. Prime Minister Abdelmalek Saleh will go on Thursday to the province of Gadaia at the head of a large ministerial delegation to inquire about the situation in this province, which is experiencing in these few days incidents that caused more than 20 deaths. This visit takes place a day after the meeting devoted to the situation in Gadaia, chaired by President of the Republic Abdelaziz Bouteflika, and which resulted in a series of decisions. In this regard, President Bouteflika tasked the commander of the 4th Military Region to supervise the action of the security services and the concerned local authorities for the restoration and preservation of public order throughout the province of Gadaia. President instructed the Prime Minister to ensure with the Minister of Justice that the Public Prosecutor's Department deals diligently and severely with all violations of the law throughout the province of Gadaia, mainly the breach of the security of persons and property.
In economy-related news, the FCE Forum has met with young Algerian entrepreneurs to help them embark into the world of digital technologies, which it says is the future of entrepreneurship and success in the changing world economy. Lamia Shosh has the full story.
Economic institutions' tendency to move towards digital technologies in order to keep up with international corporation standards is a challenge that the Heads of Enterprises Forum, or FCE, is betting on in its recent meeting with young entrepreneurs who rose to the challenge to turn their ideas into profitable businesses with the help and guidance of the most prominent and influential businessmen in Algeria.
L'entreprise numérique, c'est l'avenir aujourd'hui.
Digital enterprises are the future. In this age, digital technologies are the future. We will help them in order to commercially succeed. An enterprise is not only how to make a business work, how to pay taxes, or how to insure employees. We are here to help them and encourage them to move forward.
A meeting of communication to bridge the gap between the endless ambitions of young investors and the willingness of the Heads of Enterprises Forum to modernize economic enterprises and improve their managerial mechanisms in order to boost the quantity and quality of production.
They are not used to the digital world. We are working in this domain, so it allows us to gain new clients and for them to have new opportunities. This generates employment, opportunities, and wealth, which does not only mean money. We learn from each other. There is a lot of exchange going on, and it's very, very good.
Je suis plus sur Twitter, on va dire, parce que maintenant c'est donc la manière.
Twitter is very popular. It's the new way to blog. There is a lot of demand and development. There are a lot of projects with real ambition which will give concrete results. In Algeria, there are plenty of ideas, but not enough resources. I think that this kind of initiative will generate resources to make those ideas concrete, which allows a simple idea to transform into a real project. And this is what we need in Algeria, and this is what will happen in the upcoming years.
Et je pense que c'est ce dont on a besoin en Algérie et c'est ce qui va venir dans les prochaines années.
Encouraging Algerian talents in excelling in the field of digital technologies is yet another initiative by the Heads of Enterprises Forum to allow young Algerian investors to become successful entrepreneurs and contribute to the development of national economy and break away from traditional patterns which will without a doubt help keep up with the ever-changing economic world.
Moving on to another matter now. After the temperatures witnessed an unprecedented hike in the last few days across the national territory, resulting in a massive heat wave, the National Meteorological Office reassured the citizens regarding this worrying matter that the temperatures will witness a slight drop in the upcoming days to reach 32 degrees Celsius across the coastline. Moving on to international news, British tourists are being advised to leave Tunisia immediately after intelligence warnings of further terrorist attacks and concerns that the local authorities are unable to provide adequate protection. Two operators are organising extra flights to bring back more than 3,000 UK tourists after the Foreign Office amended its travel advice to warn against all but essential travel to the country. There is no specific threat, but travel firms are seeking to fly Britons over the next few days, and some are repatriating their British staff. Still with our international news, Greece has just submitted to its Eurozone creditors its final reform proposal in hope of striking a deal which would prevent its banks from collapsing and which would keep the country within the Eurozone.
Greece's debt woes intensify as reports indicate that the Greek government has finalized its very last reform proposal and has submitted to its creditors and financial institutions before the midnight deadline later tonight. This proposal follows yesterday's formal application for a third bailout program from the European Stability Mechanism, together representing Greece's final bid to remain within the Eurozone. The details of the reform proposal have yet to be divulged to the public, but early sources indicate that it involves some 13 billion euros of fiscal austerity measures in exchange for a loan of around 50 billion euros. These measures follow the promises made by newly appointed Finance Minister Euclid Tsakalatos to the European Stability Mechanism yesterday in his attempt to secure an emergency bailout. Most notably, Tsakalatos pledged to immediately begin implementing a set of emergency measures, including tax and pension reforms, if the Eurozone were to provide the necessary funds to avoid bankruptcy. Tax and pension reforms, two cornerstones of the conditionality Greece's creditors had attached to previous loan offers, were particular sticking points for the ruling anti-austerity Syriza party. If true, these measures would constitute the most punitive set of austerity measures to be accepted by a Greek ruling party. The proposal also comes just days after voters in Greece had rejected creditors' demand in a historic referendum, amidst reports that Greek banks only have a few days' worth of currency remaining in their coffers, despite the introduction of capital controls and a nationwide bank holiday being in effect since last Monday. Speaking in front of the European Parliament yesterday, where he was greeted by a hail of both jeering and applause, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras denounced previous bailout programs for turning Greece into what he called an austerity laboratory, while assuring that his government would submit a credible reform proposal on Thursday evening. The proposal is set to be voted upon early tomorrow morning by the Greek Parliament, and it will be discussed this Sunday in an emergency meeting involving all 28 member states of the European Union. A breakdown in Eurozone negotiation or the collapse of Greek banks without a subsequent rescue deal could spell the end of Greece in the Eurozone and a return to the drachma.
Moving on now to Vienna, Austria, where the United States, Iran and other major powers are currently attempting to strike an agreement regarding Iran's nuclear program ahead of a crucial midnight deadline given by the United States Congress, which would complicate further negotiations. Let's follow the report.
Press conference delivered earlier today in Vienna, Austria, American Secretary of State John Kerry insisted that the United States and the other major powers, which constitute the so-called P5+1, were in no rush to reach a nuclear agreement with Iran. Kerry's statements come days after a missed 30th of June deadline, which was agreed upon by both parties, as well as amid speculation that there is increasing pressure on the P5+1 and Iran to arrive to a suitable outcome of negotiations prior to a deadline earlier this evening, which would mean that the issue could risk becoming bogged down by the United States Congress. In effect, if Congress does not receive a finalized document by midnight Washington time, the review period of any agreement would increase from 30 to 60 days, and with it, so too will the delay involved for the removal of current U.S. sanctions, a major sticking point in current negotiations. Kerry emphasized the importance of striking a lasting deal, stating that it is not a test of a matter of days or weeks or months, it's a test for decades. Kerry, however, also made sure to stress that the P5+1 would not be strong-armed into a deal at any cost, claiming that he was prepared to call an end to the talks if tough decisions were not made.
This is not open-ended. President Obama made it very clear to me last night. You can't wait forever for the decision to be made. We know that. If the tough decisions don't get made, we are absolutely prepared to call an end to this process.
Disagreement amongst Iran and the P5+1 primarily centers around sanctions, as well as Iran's transparency in providing assurances as to their compliance with any eventual accord, as the United States and its allies want to ensure that Iran is not capable of producing a nuclear weapon in under a year's time. Both parties have claimed that they remain hopeful for the negotiations to provide an agreement soon, but it looks increasingly doubtful that such a document would come before tonight's deadline.
The International Monetary Fund on Thursday trimmed its forecast for global economic growth for this year to take into account the impact of recent weakness in the United States. But the global financial institution said growth prospects for next year remain undimmed despite Greece's debt crisis and the recent changes in the Chinese financial market. Lamia Shosh has the details in the following report.
To its twice-yearly World Economic Outlook, the IMF reduced its growth projection for 2015 from 3.5 to 3.3% after a disappointing first quarter, particularly in the US. However, the fund left its prediction for next year unchanged at 3.8%, while slightly upgrading the outlook for the Eurozone from 1.6% to 1.7%.
Moderate growth continues. You have an improving recovery in advanced economies. and you have the forecast slowdown in emerging market and low-income countries. As you know, the forecast that we have for this year are 3.3% for 2015 for this year and 3.8% for next year.
The prolonged standoff between Greece and its international creditors over a new rescue program could force Athens to leave the Eurozone as early as next week, making it the first country to leave the currency union since its creation in 1999. Investors have so far remained relatively sanguine about the prospect of Grexit, marking a notable difference from the widespread contagion which hit other weak economies, such as Portugal and Ireland in the earlier phases of the Eurozone crisis. The IMF struck a relatively upbeat note on the Greek crisis, saying that developments in Greece have so far not resulted in significant contagion.
The mechanical links between Greece and the rest of the world are limited, be it on the trade side or the finance side. That's reassuring, but it's not totally reassuring.
The IMF expects global growth to improve to 3.8% next year. Meanwhile, China and other emerging markets decelerate, and advanced economies still struggle to shrug off the legacies of the crisis.
Way back to Algeria and a word about sport. USM Algiers will face Al Merreikh of Sudan for the second fixture as part of the ongoing African Champions League. The Algerian players are looking forward to winning the game after they earned 3 points in the first fixture when clashing with the AS Sétif. The game is scheduled on Friday night at 10:30 local time in Omar Hamadi Stadium in downtown Algiers. Shakib Elwishi has more.
The USM Algiers will be facing this Friday night at 10:30 in Omar Hamadi Stadium, Algiers, the Sudanese team of Al Merreikh. The football game will be the second fixture of the group stages of the African Champions League. Both teams are eager to get the first place of the Group B and therefore confirm their good form after they defeated AS Sétif during the first fixture. USM Algiers will have to play the football game without their two key players, Kadour Beljilali and Zinedine Farhat, both injured. On the other hand, their number one goalkeeper, Mohamed Zimamouche, will be back after he was absent during the last game. For its part, Al Merreikh coach Diego Garzeto is confident and is willing to get at least 4 points for the two next football games of his team against AS Sétif and USM Algiers.
C'est la Champions League, donc.
It's the Champions League, and we need to be serious against this Algerian team. We are expecting a good game, and we are ready to face them.
Pour finir le championnat, mais qui a des qualités.
The referee team will be composed of Malian referees. The central referee Mohamed Keita will be supported by Balala Diarra and Risa Kamori. In the other football game of the group, MC Ulma will face on Saturday Sétif in Misaoud Zougar Stadium, in what seems to be the first derby of the history of the two teams on the African level.
And finally, Japanese city Kyoto was named the world's best city for a second consecutive year by the readers of US travel magazine Travel and Leisure. Since 1995, the magazine has released an annual ranking of the world's top 10 cities as assessed by its readers. It samples their opinions in 6 categories, including places of interest, culture, food, and people. Nadia Qasmi has more.
For the second year in a row, Kyoto, Japan, a city that could be described as the antithesis to the bustling energy of Tokyo, has been voted the world's best city by readers of Travel and Leisure magazine. After compiling the scores from its affluent and well-traveled readers, the American travel magazine released the results of its annually World's Best Awards, which break down the top-scoring cities, hotels, airlines, and cruises into tidy rankings. And with an approval rating of 91, Kyoto was given the top spot on the World's Best Cities list, narrowly beating out Charleston, South Carolina, and Siem Reap in Cambodia for the title. While Tokyo is best known for being a portal of modern city life, bustling energy, skyscrapers, flashing neon lights, Kyoto offers a different kind of rhythm that includes more than 1,000 ancient Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, Zen gardens, traditional Raikon inns, and a district dedicated to working geishas. Kyoto is considered the birthplace of geisha culture. It was also the imperial capital of Japan for more than 1,000 years. Interestingly, conspicuously absent on the list are a few of the top tourist destinations in the world, notably Paris, New York and London, as well as representation from Latin countries and South America. The only North American city to crack the list is Charleston, which also topped the best cities list for the US and Canada. Travel and leisure readers were most enamored by the Galapagos Islands in the category of best islands, followed by Bali and the Maldives, while Disney Cruise Line emerged the favorite mega-ship cruise line.
And with Kyoto breathtaking landscapes, we end tonight's news brought to you live from Dzair News. I'm Mustafa Zouk. Thank you for joining us live.